I'm Professor Detman, and today we're going to be discussing functional groups. Functional groups are polar molecules that are attached to our hydrocarbons to change their overall function in our organic molecules. These functional groups are very important in biological organisms. So our first functional group that we're going to discuss are our hydroxyl groups. Hydroxyl groups have an oxygen and a hydrogen. They are polar, they are water soluble, and we do find them in all of our alcohols. The hydroxyl group, if we look at the molecule, we can see that it has a hydrogen covalently bonded to an oxygen. Our hydrocarbon chain comes off the other end. So our hydroxyl group is simply one oxygen and one hydrogen. The next functional group we're going to discuss are our carbonyls. Now carbonyls are a little bit different. They actually contain a carbon molecule double bonded to an oxygen. They too are water soluble and cause a polarity to the overall hydrocarbon. We find our carbonyl groups in our sugar molecules. Now there are two different types of carbonyls. The first one is our aldehydes. Aldehydes have a carbon double bonded to an oxygen and also bonded to a hydrogen. So these aldehydes we find at the end of a hydrocarbon chain. Our carbon skeleton would come off in this direction. So we have our double bonded oxygen to our carbon with our hydrogen at the end. Our second carbonyl group is our ketones. Ketones also have that carbon double bonded to an oxygen. However, that carbon is found in the middle of a hydrocarbon chain, where we have carbons on one side as well as on the other. So the best way to remember the ketones is that they are located in the middle of a hydrocarbon chain. When we look at the two of them, we can see that they are somewhat different because of the hydrogen on our aldehyde molecule. Our next functional group is going to be our carboxyl group. Carboxyl groups almost combine our carbonyls and our hydroxyl groups together, but don't get confused because they are very different functional groups. They have a carbon, two oxygens, and a hydrogen attached to them. They are always found at the end of a hydrocarbon chain. They are very polar, and they are also water soluble. When we look at our carboxyl group, what we see is this carbon double bonded to an oxygen, but then the second bond is to a second oxygen molecule, and then a hydrogen down on the bottom. Once again, this is at the very end of our hydrocarbon skeleton. So we have our hydrocarbon chain coming off over here. This polar molecule also has the ability of becoming an acid in solution. And what will happen is this hydrogen will be released, increasing the hydrogen ion concentration in a solution and creating what we call carboxylic acid. Our next functional group is the amine group. The amine group is a nitrogen with two hydrogens attached to it. It too is water soluble and found in polar molecules. The amine group, as you can see, has this hydrocarbon chain coming off the tail end of it also. So we find this also at the end of a hydrocarbon chain. Our amine groups and our carboxyl groups are the key functional groups found in all amino acids. The amine is our amino part, and the carboxylic acid is the acid part of those amino acids. Our next functional group is our sulfhydryl group. Now, sulfhydryl group is very similar to our hydroxyl group in that it has a sulfur covalently bonded to a hydrogen. It too is water soluble, polar, and it's found in our cysteine amino acids. And that is really the only place we do find the sulfhydryl groups. And our last functional group is going to be our phosphate groups. Now, phosphates are very unique in the overall structure. If you recall, phosphate only has a valency of 3, but in a phosphate group, it actually is capable of forming 5 covalent bonds. This makes it very metastable and highly reactive in many organisms. The phosphate group has 2 hydrogens, a phosphate, and 4 oxygen molecules. It is water-soluble, and it is found in nucleic acids as well as in many energy carriers. When we look at our phosphate group, what we see is our phosphate covalently bonded doubly to our hydrogen or our oxygen. So we have a double bonded oxygen, and then we have a single bonded oxygen with a hydrogen, a second oxygen with a hydrogen, and our third oxygen here attached to that hydrocarbon skeleton. So when we look at this phosphate group, it is very unique in its structure. It too can form phosphoric acid by losing their hydrogens and increasing hydrogen ion concentration in the solution, and then we create our phosphoric acid.